If you're watching a recording, I'm going to start a little late today, just another minute or so before we get started, okay? All right. What am I doing? Oh. Wait. Yeah. Yipes. Okay, let me take a look and see what's going on. So I'm being told that Q Talk is not up. Can you refresh and see what happens, Andy? I'm sorry, so Q Talk Live is up or no? Okay, so it looks like we are just about there. I'm going to give it just another minute. And before we start, yes, we are back in the office. Oh my God. It was a long week last week. What can I say? Right? Anyway, so here we are. Are we ready? Ready to start? Sorry, starting a little bit late. It's a little bit weird today. Today is doing something a little bit different than what I've done in the past, I guess. But look at us. We are 52 weeks. Can you believe it? I know. It is so hard to believe that we actually have made it an entire year of going virtual. And you know, one of the things that when I started all this, everybody's been asking me how long I was going to go virtual. And to this day, I still say, I don't know. I don't know how long this is going to last. But what I do know is that it has been the support of everyone who's here watching, whether you're watching a replay or you're watching this live. It is from your support that I've been able to keep this going. And along with Andy, of course, that I should say we have been able to keep this going. So I wanted to take a moment today to just say thank you to everyone again for all the continued support through purchases and contributions at theurbanbeater.com and all the sharing within the community and reposting all the recordings and everything on social media, because you know if it wasn't for all these little things, we would not be able to be here 52 weeks later. You know, it's been a year of uncertainty, and though I feel as if the uncertainty is mostly lifted, we don't know where the rest of this year goes, but we all are putting out our best foot forward and hoping for the best as we continue to just keep working. And that's why, you know, people think I'm sort of nuts for putting together Metal Immersion Vienna, Austria at the end of the year. But we did place at the end of the year. We're just being hopeful, and we're going to continue to try to put our best foot forward and be hopeful about what we are doing. So, because what else are you going to do? You know, the only thing left is just crawl in a corner and cry, right? But I wanted to also take a moment to bring something up here. It was brought to my attention that a group of you, viewers, wanted to somehow acknowledge the work that we've been doing this past year. And many of you got together and decided that you would make contributions to your favorite charity in my name. I cannot begin to tell you how much this means to me. On so many levels. You know what? I rehearsed this so many times today, and here I am live. And this is where we are. Anyway. What's interesting to me is in this year, you all found out who I am and what is so important to me. And that you decided to pay it forward. You know, that's a really, really big deal to me. That you decided to pay it forward. And in doing so, not only did you acknowledge me, but other people benefited from what you did. And this is big. This is really big, you know, because if we all do a little bit, everyone, we can have a better world, right? So anyway, that said, I know that many of you have made contributions, and it's really, really unclear to me how many people have. But just to know that even one person has done this is just huge. It really is. So, in the spirit of that, I wanted to share the list of everyone who of the charities that have benefited from your thoughtfulness. And though I know that this is not a complete list, I wanted to say it out loud, and I'll post it on the Q Talk Facebook page so that everyone can see. And if you did make a contribution, if you would also go ahead and comment there and add, so that I will know what you've done and to show my appreciation. So, the American Heart Association, the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, Wounded Warrior Project, St. Joseph's Indian School for Children of the Lakota Nation, and the Southwest Indian Foundation. That's all I know for now. So if you did make a contribution, thank you so much. And please add it when I make the post later today, and let us know what all you've done. I also wanted to take a minute to acknowledge Andy. As you know, he's always in my ear every day, because without him, this wouldn't be going so well. As you guys know, on Wednesday, he was not with me, and boy, that was not good on Monday, as it has since been deleted. However, the good news is I'll be going back to Studio 36 at some point, and we'll do it again. And we're going to do another studio tour next month when we are at Beat Everything in White Plains, and we'll give it another try and see what happens. But anyway, just, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing everything that you're doing. I really, really, really appreciate it. We'll get together soon. We'll all be together soon, and it'll be really great. So we're going to keep doing this until it just doesn't work anymore, right? And for now, it's working. So, okay, give me a second, okay? Anyway. All right, so let's get to today's live. Oh my gosh. So this is Q Talk Live. I'm Q Fom Gray, and I'm a sobby mess. And we're simulcasting on 4 channels. Facebook, the Q Fom Gray Facebook, Q Talk on Facebook, on Twitch, and on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for coming. We're going to talk today about finding design inspiration. Here we are with the 1-year anniversary. I thought it was a really good time to talk about design inspiration because, believe it or not, it's a struggle. Well, okay, maybe not such a struggle. It's become a thing. And going into this 52 weeks ago, I really didn't think that I had 90 projects in me. Like, we crossed over 90 projects last week, I think it was. In 52 weeks, we've done more than 90 projects, and I never thought I was capable of having enough creativity to get that far. And so the question always comes up is, how do you do this? How do you get there? And, I thought it would be a really good idea to go ahead and share my approach on it, and maybe you too can find inspiration for yourself, right? So here's my approach is, I think from what I see from students mostly is that people want to do everything. You got to remember, you can't do everything. You want to, but you really can't. So first and foremost, you need to narrow down and think about what you're trying to accomplish, right? Because designing for yourself versus designing for a jewelry line is 2 different things. By the way, if you have some questions or you have some comments, go ahead and tell me, because Andy's going to let me know in my ear. I'm sorry, honeys. Okay, so I'm being told that the video is jerking and freezing for everyone. Hold on, let me see if I can fix the setting a little bit. Let me change that. I don't know what's going to happen in the middle of that by doing this, but let's see if that fixes. Okay. I just changed the settings a little bit, see if that will fix everything. Sorry about that. Anyway, so Okay. So the approach, so you have to narrow down what you're trying to do. You know, start small before you start big. We all have grandiose ideas, right? But you got to start somewhere. If you don't start somewhere, then you're not going to be able to do everything, okay? So when you're looking for inspiration, you got to remember inspiration can come from just about everything and everywhere. Until you start training your eye and your brain to see things differently, you're not going to see it. So here you'll see when the first project here, as you can see, is where this is one of the first step-by-step surprise projects that I did. Okay, and this is so where did I get the inspiration for this one? So I look at a lot of different things, right? So here I actually like ironwork a lot, and although this is not the exact piece that inspired me to make this, I couldn't find it this morning. I was looking at pictures like, oh, you know, it'll probably be good to share some pictures, but this is actually a fireplace grate, right? And I know that what I was looking at when I came with this design, it was actually a fireplace grate, but you can see where the inspiration came from and the connection. So thus, that's the first thing you want to look at. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm hesitating because Andy's telling me that your video is really bad. I increased it to the maximum, so hopefully that will fix it here. It's just going to take a minute to get there. Hold on, I'm going to look at one other thing and see if I can fix that. That's been changed. Okay. Okay. It could be our connection here on this end. I apologize. But anyway, so inspiration. So see, you can see where my inspiration came from. It was the willingness to look around my area to see and find that form that makes me happy, right? Because sometimes you just can't bring it out of your own brain. So by looking at different things. Another thing, so here's another example, right? So I saw this. This is a gate. I know. But if you think about things and you look at the form and the structure of things and see what happens if you make this really small, this could be a really cool pendant, right? So again, where I'm going with this is you have to look at things a little bit differently. Just because it's huge and it's a gate doesn't mean you couldn't make it this small. And you continue to pare it down to the size that you need it to be, because who's wearing a gate around their neck, right? So structure, that's really important too when you're looking at form and structure. And next, don't freak out, but I am going to do this. So the next thing is here, you'll see that although this is KS Jewelry Design, right? I look at other jewelers and I look at what attracts me to their jewelry, and then I'm looking at their structure. Is it the structure? Is it the design? Is it the color? What is it? So for me, most of the time it has to do with structure, right? So the structure here is about dimension. There was layers of dimension, and although I copied it, I didn't. I used it for inspiration. So this was the saddest design that was a minimal metal Monday early on, but you can see where the structure is very similar, right? It's about looking at other things and bringing it into your work, and then again finding your voice to work your way through. So speaking of your voice, something that people really struggle with is how to find their own voice. Well, frankly, when you're first starting out, do you really have one, or are you really mimicking somebody else? Even singers do this. They mimic somebody else until they find comfort in their own voice, and then they stretch out and they go they stretch out, and then that's when they blossom. So I tell people this a lot. And again, I know I'm doing this live and I know I'm going very public with this, But I do believe that when you're starting out, there's nothing wrong with copying someone's work because you're not selling it. You're making it for yourself. And what happens by doing that is you start understanding, because you are physically working with the product, you're physically making these forms to understand why they did what they did and what works, right? So once you finally get comfortable with all of that, can you stretch out and make your own creations? Because now you go, oh, well, I know why, like here, I know why she put the leaf on top. I assume this is a woman. Why should put the leaf on top of this wire? Because it was structural. It needed to be connected to something, right? And then as you move on, you know, oh, I know why she flattened the ring out. Oh, because it was easier to solder. So really, by copying someone's work, you get to learn the technical end of what brings it all together. So again, structure. You want to look at pieces for structure, okay? Another item. Oops, did I lose that? Oh, yeah, here. Okay, so another thing I look at a lot, I bet you guys don't know what this is, but these are rain chains. This has been very trendy recently, and rain chains are instead of gutter spouts, okay? And they've become very, very ornate and very interesting. I find the structures really, really cool when you're looking at rain chains. And although this is not the one that inspired me, couldn't find it. Again, couldn't find it this morning, but you see here, this is one of the latest pieces that I did, and you can see how this in itself, in the structure, can be a rain chain. But I adapted it to what I wanted it to be. So this eventually will be either a bracelet or a necklace. And of course, a rain chain is not going to have stone, right? And it's not going to be in sterling silver. But again, looking at the structure and the form and the shape is something to find inspiration, right? Okay, so there's another form. Other places you can, for me, that I look for inspiration is interior design, architectural design, right? Like, I remember this one time I was sitting in a restaurant, and literally they had an accent wall, and it had this beautiful wave pattern through it. And it's like, oh yeah, that's something I want in minutia. So you take a picture, you bring it back, and you see how you can create that, whether through texturing or through soldering and building. But you're looking at all that for inspiration, right? Then comes color. Then comes color, okay? Most of us, the problem is we always stay within our wheelhouse. Everything we do is a color that we love or are comfortable with. It's really hard for us to step outside of that. And for me, it's blue. Everything is blue, always, always blue. You can see by these examples, look, it's all in the blues and greens. Gee, these are class samples, but the original sample was there. And I know that it's not always about me. So to stretch out of that, again, I look around me, and I actually will do searches on the web for trends, current interior design trends, interior design trends, postcard, marketing, graphic art design. I put in the words color trends for graphic arts, and then you'll see how other people are putting colors together. And so from there, I start stretching out. Again, it just opens the world to me, right? Like this, I would have never done something like this. It was through one of these searches. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, look, those colors go really well together. I might not wear it. It might not appeal to me, but I do know it looks good, right? So that's how I come up with the colors. And then, with the colors, because I don't think I'm really good with color when it comes for things for myself. So if you look behind me, we have our Urban Beater logo. You'll see it's in mostly like peaches and oranges. I didn't design that. Had I designed that, it would have been closer to the blues and greens. Someone else designed that, but yet I can acknowledge that it looks good. So, of course, I wanted to diversify and I wanted to have a much broader audience than just the audience of blues and greens, that I went ahead and I agreed to it because it was right and it makes sense. So, for me, making it for myself is a little bit different from making it for somebody else, but especially with color. And it is a stretch, and it's about getting comfortable with it. And what has happened through the last few years as I've worked really hard to stretch my colors is I start doing things like this. Okay, so you can see, and then it's funny because I was looking at this. This was a gift that was given to me recently from a student, and I went, oh, look, I got it right, because aren't these colors really wonderful? They're pretty cool, and yet I did do this a few weeks ago without looking at this, because I've been playing around with colors so much that it's like, oh yeah, okay, so your oranges and your yellows and a little bit of green goes together, blah, 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 and you get more and more comfortable with it as you go. So the question is it Pantone that announces yearly colors? Yes, they do announce every year the color of the year. Not that I agree with it every year, but yes, they do. Okay. So furthermore, as you keep going on this journey of design, where else can you find design inspiration, right? So what's interesting is one of the things I love, love, love are mandalas, right? And rock art. Have you guys seen this? People, this is a rock. Let's see who did this. 2017. Again, it was a local artist and it was a gift from a student. But I love this form, okay? And it was also, this is a Maori design from New Zealand. This dot design is really, really common down there with the indigenous people. And so you can see where my designs went. So this is a class I did a few years ago called Enamel in Detail, right? So it's all inspired by these things. Why not look at not just jewelry, but other structures that are out there to figure out and to bring it into jewelry, right? Why not? This is where design starts. And until you start getting comfortable with that, again, like I said, until you start making it and doing it, you're not going to find your own voice. But you can see where inspiration really comes from, and it's okay. It works. You got to figure out what makes you happy. So then, okay, I have another one here. Oops. Where'd it go? Oh, right here. So the comment is exploration is important. That is correct. Because if you don't explore it, you're going to be a one-note designer. And who wants to be that? I mean, we can all string up a strand of pearls. Just saying. We could all string up a strand of pearls and throw in a couple more round colored beads. How interesting is that? It's fine. It's a classic. But if you want to be an artist, you want to be an artisan, you have to stretch your abilities. You have to stretch your eye, really, is what it becomes, right? Another thing I really, really love are knots, and thus it lends itself to Celtic knots, right? And this is the Crete design that we did for Minimal Metal earlier. Let's see, let me think about this. Like 35 weeks ago, right? Something like that. It was a long time ago. But you can see where this inspiration lends itself to my jewelry design. You see, is it a copy? I don't know. Define that, because I know some people would argue that I totally copied this. I don't know. I think I would call it inspired. And that's where you need to get comfortable, find inspiration, add your take onto it to create something that makes you feel good, right? I say forget the naysayers, because you know what? More than likely, they're not original either. And they do, is there really anything original anymore? That's a question. That's a big question. I'm not clear there is. And then there's this one. Let's see. So, I forgot to grab the sample. But looking at structure and form, again, back to that, right? This is, I don't even know what you call this. It's a globe? Okay, can't remember. But you'll know that my revolutionary pendant is this. Bottom line, this is what it was. But it was my take on it, and it was how I spun it, literally and figuratively, to make it into a piece that's only this big. Yes, it doesn't look like a globe. There were stones in it and whatnot, but it works. And, again, can you say it's a copy? Okay, I have no shame. I can say it's a copy. It wasn't this one, but it was something else. And I love it. I think it actually works, and it's really cool to be able to find the inspiration to bring it into another medium, right? We have to look at different things to find the inspiration and to bring it into our medium. So, how do you find comfort in all that? What would make life a lot easier, or what would make this exploration a lot easier, is to use the tools that are out there for us, okay? One of which is Pinterest. If you haven't considered doing this yet, a lot of people say, well, I'm not on social media. So it's not social media. You can close all this off and make it very private for yourself. But I would create a Pinterest board, and I have them out there. And actually, if you go to my Pinterest, you'll see I post some of my inspirations and things like that. But I would create several Pinterest boards, like 2 or 3 Pinterest boards, and start pinning them. Like one would be, color inspiration. One would be form inspiration. One would be jewelry inspiration that you see from other people. And you start pinning things into these boards, right? And after a while, what happens is, once you get about 20 pins in there, you'll see, wait, all of my colors are the same. Aha. Why? Because I love these colors. So how do I expand on that? So then you start going out and you start looking at other colors that you might not wear, but you like. You start pinning it there, and you'll find a trend into it, and it gets you more and more comfortable with that. Same thing with structure. You'll start seeing that, oh, I'm really more traditional and conventional versus I'm very modern and sleek. So based on what it is that you put into these boards, and you start seeing those trends for yourself, you start narrowing down where you go with what you create. Okay. Same thing with art, right? It was really interesting. I was this past weekend when I was out teaching, I was hosted by one of my students, and I had not been to their home before, and I went in and went, wow, this is different. It was cool. And even though I would never have it in my home, I wouldn't say never, but it's not something I would have had in my home. It was really cool, and it really worked for them. What was it? Every single wall had impressionistic art. And I've been in a lot of homes through the years. I've been doing this for 12 years. I've been hosted by a lot of people. I have not ever been in a home where almost every piece of art was impressionistic. But that tells you something, right? If you were to do this in a Pinterest board, or however you want to save it, I just say Pinterest because it's really easy, you'll find that, oh, this is what I like, and it starts narrowing down what you're doing so that you can focus and not be so scattered. I realize we are serial crafters. I realize we all have a diverse set of interests, but we got to start somewhere. So by starting somewhere, then you can refine your craft and build, and from there you can start building, right? Another tool for yourself is start taking pictures. We all have cell phones at this point. We all have cameras built in our cell phones. I say that. I did meet somebody with a flip phone just a couple weeks ago. But anyway, but hey, and now I think about it, it takes pictures too. Nonetheless, so start taking pictures because you're never going to remember. When we get to travel again, this will become a little bit more relevant, but you'll see things that you'll like. You know what? I had never seen that rain chain before until I was visiting, again, a friend's home. It's like, wow, this is really cool. Took a picture, brought it back, researched it. When you're out and about, I don't care if you're in a grocery store or at the park, take a picture, bring it back, research it, and bring it together for yourself. Once you put it all together, it'll make sense and the form will come together, right? And then lastly, consider a sketchbook. Again, recently, a couple months ago, I was talking to somebody and they're like, wow, I never thought about a sketchbook until you said that. And you know what? If you know me, you know that I carry one all the time. And what I did for myself was I created this book, and yes, I bound it for myself, and I would just carry it and make sketches as I think of them, as I see things. And like if I had seen that piece of wrought iron, not only did I have a picture, but maybe my head had already gone to a potential piece. I would sketch out my idea and then come back to it. So in my sketchbook, I would just, again, out and about, it doesn't mean that every piece is going to work, okay? But what it does do is it allows you to start, again, focusing. It's about focusing, right? And yet, I also get people who say, well, Q, I'm not really good at sketching. Well, as you can tell, I'm not really good at sketching either. It's not necessarily about having a good sketch, but it's also about reminding you so that you don't forget what you saw. But it also helps you start figuring out proportion and potentially the design of a piece, because you don't want to cut a piece of silver and go, oh, that shape doesn't work, because clearly, okay, so you can see here, this was the Anniversary Pendant. Okay, let me walk through this thought. And the other thing about my sketchbook is that because I custom spiral bound it, what happens when it's full is I undo it and I put them all together. So now this becomes archival for me. It's one entire book of sketches, and then I have a fresh one. So all those pages, will get cleaned up and then thrown into one book, or it'll become, obviously I have several. But anyway, so this one, let's talk about it for a second. So I knew that I wanted to do a project or a design that can be used, like this is the Anniversary Pendant, where you can put different colored CZs or stones to commemorate a birthday or a wedding anniversary, whatever it is that you wanted, right? And I started with this piece, believe it or not. And I was like, that works its way better. And I sort of, it was sort of tacky, but what is it? The Heart to Heart collection, I think. Jane Seymour, you guys know that one, right? K Jewelers. It's like, I always thought that piece was a little, too frilly for this girl, but inspiration comes from everywhere. And I looked at that, it's like, it would be really cool to do a take on that. And as you can see, I have 3 stones here, right? And that was where the different anniversary stone or birthday stones would have been. And so I started with that. I drew it out and went, I can't say I love it, right? And of course, I always make these notes, where it's going to solder, what kind of wire I want to use, blah, blah, blah. But this, at least for me, allowed me to start thinking about what it is I was trying to accomplish and the design I was going after. This was too traditional, conventional for me. But at least it planted a seed, and that seed went to this piece, right? And where I was talking about, by sketching it out, you start understanding the proportions and whatnot and how it looks. And so thus, this is the final outcome on this piece. obviously I did not continue with the shape because it's a little awkward, right? It didn't quite work for me to do that. It made more sense to go the other direction, as you can see here, right? So again, even though they were very poorly sketched, it does give you an idea of what to do and how to approach it. And of course, before you make it, I would make this in copper, and because, especially silver today, $26 an ounce is a little bit too much to be playing with, right? So there's the process of what we're doing here. Okay, so I wanted to show you one other thing. Okay, so this was my sketch for this piece, right? There we are. So that's how that started. And I surmised how I wanted it to be. And until I made one, I didn't know what the form and the function would be. But at least this would give me a starting point by figuring out and writing down where I was going with all this. And even here, I stated that I was going to put cabochons in the piece, but I did not. I ended up with CZs, right? Which is okay. Just because you sketch something out doesn't mean you cannot deviate from it. And that's where a lot of people also get stymied is, but, sometimes things just don't work out. There's another piece. Hold on, let me grab it. So if you were on Pinterest with me about a month ago or 6 weeks ago, I started making this piece, right? In my brain, it's beautiful. It'll work out really well. And I was going to put CZs in here too, because I thought, oh, great. And then I discovered, wait, it doesn't bend, right? So sometimes things don't work out. And it's interesting because over the weekend, I was talking to somebody who said, 20% of my designs don't work out. I'm like, and you think that's bad? Because I would say 20 to 30% of my designs don't work out. So, if you at least draw it out and think it through before you jump into an expensive venture, which I don't know where I screwed up on that one, but anyway. Well, before you jump into that expense, it at least allows you to work through the little bits and pieces of how to move forward, okay? So again, inspiration, back to that, design inspiration can come from a lot of different places. You just have to be willing to be open to it and to see it. You have to train your eye and go, oh yeah, that would be a great piece of jewelry. Chandeliers are a great thing to look at. People typically would not relate a chandelier into a piece of jewelry, but pieces of chandeliers are really, really wonderful. So you got to remember, you can't make everything, but you got to start somewhere, right? Just starting small is not a bad thing. So today, when I was working through and trying to figure this out and what I wanted to present and the discussion points that I wanted to share with you, I got more and more detailed into it. It's like, oh, okay, no, it doesn't work really well because, frankly, I'm just talking out and there's no interaction. So I was thinking, it might be really fun to do a Zoom along to discuss design, not just inspiration, but design and putting things together and what works and why they work and what you would look for, whether you're going after a contemporary design or more traditional design, what makes one more traditional and one more contemporary. So if you think that's an interesting topic, do post a comment here, whether you're on Twitch or on Facebook or on YouTube. Post a comment and let me know that you might be interested. I'm working on the April design at this point and trying to get that together. So I think it would be a good thing. I think a Zoom along to have a discussion about design could be really helpful. And honestly, as much as I think it would be helpful to you, it's always helpful to me to talk about the process because it reinforces everything that I'm doing. And that's something to be said too, is when you are talking to others and sharing with others, it reinforces what you do, right? So, look for those opportunities for yourself to learn and expand where you're going, right? So, okay. That said, I don't know if you have any questions. I haven't heard any, but do throw out your questions if you have any. Andy's with me. I see somebody said, I love looking at ancient jewelry in museum. Absolutely. If I was in a museum, I always go towards the jewelry section. Well, not only because we're obsessed, but you look at all those old traditional jewelry and find inspiration there. Remember, most of this is not rocket science, A. B, it's not original. People have been doing it for thousands of years. Adornment has been around since man has been around, right? We've been adorning ourselves. So why not look at those things and bring it together and bring it to today into your work? And by the way, it's also not a bad thing to combine different designs. You can bring a little bit of this and a little bit of that and make it all work together. It's about tying in those designs that make it cohesive. I'm sorry, Andy. Okay, so Andy's saying that you're liking the idea of a design zoom along. So, okay, I'll go ahead and schedule that for I think April, end of April sometime. But anyway, so on that note, I think that's all I've got to share with you today, except, of course, we have the Anniversary Pendant is happening this week. So it is a free Zoom because it's our anniversary. However, kits are still available. If you're looking for the Zoom link, I did post it on the Q Talk Facebook page. So if you're out in Twitch land or YouTube land, do come over to my Q Talk Facebook page. It is posted there so that you can join us. And on Monday, we are going to continue with the Motley Metal Monday and do, I don't know, some enamel project. I can't remember what it is. And I believe next week we also have a step-by-step surprise coming up next week also. Just to FYI, everyone, we're coming on almost 20 step-by-step surprise projects, and I think I'm going to end the step-by-step surprise series there. So if you have any ideas about what you want to see going forward, do throw them out at me. And final note, back to the beginning about those donations. If you're not comfortable with sharing it with everybody, send me a note, send me a private note, let me know what you've done. I would like to acknowledge that too. So on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon, I will call this, despite the glitches in the beginning, a success. Unlike on Monday, I'm going to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to go out. The day is absolutely beautiful. I'm going to go out in the sun and run an errand. And anyway, I'll see you guys on Friday if you're joining me for the Zoom. If not, I'll see you again on Monday. Thanks, everyone, for joining me, hanging out with me, and liking and sharing the post and making your contributions. Have a great day.